All right,
Well, hello
take it away.
everybody. We're live on Twitch. Dalton, you think we're ready to go?
Yep, we're live. We're
Yeah, so
streaming.
welcome everybody to the Dalton and Darren show, or whatever it may choose, or whatever you guys may choose it to be called. Episode 2, where we're going to go over our Motegi race and talk about the strategies and what happened. We'll get the stream going here ever so shortly and talk through all what happened. Maybe Dalton, you can start off with the struggles with qualifying and the challenges of this track. It was quite a bit different to Michigan the week before, right? Where it was a super speedway, super flat out the whole way around, easy, multiple lines. This was a totally different kettle of fish.
Yeah, the qualifying really played into you know, I'll just play it in the background so there's something on screen. But qualifying really played into the results of this race a lot more than I think Michigan did. Michigan, it was nice to be in the top 20, top 10, whatever it may be. But in this race, track position really ended up being important. And there was it wasn't just short lining because at this track you've got flat out corner in 1 and 2, but then you've got a brake and downshift into turn 3, 4, and that throws it for a loop. It's almost like Gateway, but flip the other way around, right? In turn 1, 2 and Gateway, you're braking and downshifting, whereas 3, 4, you're flat. It's kind of like just the other way. And what we found was that you know, getting on power early, getting a good run through 3, 4 on your outlap was super important. And I
Mm-hmm.
think on my qualifying run, just didn't quite get that done. Was kind of looking. I think Robbie posted an onboard shot of his pole lap, and he was flat out. It looked like through 3, 4 on his outlap, leaving the pits, and I definitely lifted and broke. So that was
Yeah, I
something
think
to think about.
I think coming from the Michigan race where we've super concentrated on race runs, this track, okay, it did need to be, you did need to have good race runs and good fuel saving and everything, but qualifying was super important as it played out throughout the race.
Yeah, and we started 19th, or no, sorry, what did we start? 20. Pull up the
I think
results here.
21st maybe,
Yeah,
20, no, maybe
21st.
even further back,
But
28th
we were
maybe.
we were pretty slow. We didn't start very well. We get next
I
week.
mean, it was so close, right? I mean, it was only a tenth between the whole field or something like
Yeah,
that.
we watched the start here. Yeah, I'm third row from the back, so we were starting right at the end. And just that not having that track position throughout the race definitely hurt us. I guess we could go if we go to the start.
Mhm.
You can watch my. Where's the cockpit view? Cockpit view. Where'd it go? Blind. We'll just use the chase view. All right, let's watch the start. So, to get a peculiarity with iRacing, the way the rules are, you can only pass on the outside. That's why I kind of peaked on Connor there. This is something kind of interesting. I remember on my VR with Oculus thinking I was a lot closer to the wall, but I might have had
Yeah,
room to actually go there. Although with the net code, you never know. But so that's something to think about.
exactly, and that's something that maybe people don't realize is, with this being a game, that net code that gets talked about a lot of times is, if the game thinks you're potentially going to hit somebody else, um, it'll actually make you have contact. Did you get a
Yeah, and
dog
so
walk in there?
what's actually going on there? Sorry, I promised someone I would send them my Twitch link, so I'm just doing that right now.
Yeah, but we're around some quick guys.
Yeah, there we
Connor
go.
Sage had a bit of a problem in qualifying, and he's been a iRacing specialist over
Hmm.
these first few races. So we were really plugged into what his strategy was, along with the leaders. This far back, we could pretty easily get off strategy, couldn't we, Dol?
Yep.
We had an idea. With the practice races that you'd done. You'd nearly won one of the practice
Yep.
races, running first and second. You qualified sixth and finished sixth in one of the qualifying races, in one of the practice races. Um, but, you know, we knew this was going to be a tire degradation race, even more than Michigan. With
Yeah.
fact that you're down changing twice into 3 and 4, using up your tires racing. You were kind of like thrown into an off strategy sequence, qualifying that far back. So we kind of threw in there nearly a 3-stop strategy straight away, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah. I think we figured, that there'd be a yellow early, which there was. We'll see coming up in a sec here, and kind of going that off cycle for the leaders. That call was made pretty early because we were so far back that it wasn't. We didn't think that we were really going to make make up the space on being aggressive and getting through the field.
Hmm.
When the crash happens in a lap or two here, next lap. But yeah, back to the netcode thing. So basically, what happens there is that, like, in this moment on my screen, right, I see cockpit view. So like I see, you know, Pato's car there, Sage's car there, Marco's car, Rossi's car,
Hmm.
and in the next time increment, let's say it's a tenth of a second that the game operates on, like its internal clock. Um, to make it not jittery on my screen, the game is actually kind of taking everyone's trajectories off of the online server thing, and on my screen projecting the cars where the game thinks it's going to be based on that data one time step ahead, and then it'll check back at the start of the next sort of loop. And that
Hmm.
what if there's error there, the cars kind of jitter a bit when you see them moving around a touch. That's kind of what happens. And the effect of that prediction is that as the speeds increase, the uncertainty of where the car actually is grows. So on my screen, right, really there's a bubble of kind of probability of where each
Yeah.
car is, and it's just a game of statistics, right? There's going to be a distribution around like where the car is of where it could be, and every 5, 10, 20 times you're in those two bubbles intersect, you know, they may be this. Where's the camera? Maybe this far apart, maybe this far apart. One car could be here, one could be here, or they could be that, and then sometimes you have
And then
contact,
you've
and then
got
sometimes you don't.
the other variable as well, Dalton. Sorry. Yeah, you got the
Course.
other variable as well of what those drivers are going to be doing,
Yeah.
right? You as a driver in the real life, you're always trying to predict. You're looking like several cars ahead here to try and predict: is there going to be somebody checking up? What's Pato doing? What's Sage doing? What's Rossi doing? You're trying to predict and judge and make millisecond decisions on what you're doing, but you're also now you've got the added, throw in there of what the game's predicting.
Hmm.
I mean, it's kind of they can't do much else because you've got 30 guys out here racing from all around the world.
Yeah.
It is a difficult situation. I get it, but it does throw you for a loop how close you can race, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it definitely does, and I think we're all expecting to be able to drive inches apart like we do in real life. But, there's an amount of respect you have to give the game to really, you know, operate within its limitations. This is a cool view because it shows the driver's perspective here, and to your point of where we're looking, right? Like you're probably looking over at Elio's car more than you're looking at Sage's and
Hmm.
Pato's car, right? You're kind of
Your
looking
peripheral
down
vision is
here.
sorting them out. Yeah.
Yeah, like this is kind of dealt with by just like I said, your peripheral vision, but you're really focusing ahead because if one of those cars loses it, you want to be slowing up real fast.
Hmm.
That's
Well, in
pause.
real life.
In
We
real
kind of
life,
go
and
on about that as well, right?
oh,
There's a lot that
speaking
happens in the game.
speaking of Elio losing it, I actually didn't realize that he was the one that started it. Was that Elio?
Oh, really?
Yeah, by chance.
Interesting.
So that was that first that incident that brought up that first caution, or that, I guess, the only caution. And pretty much as soon as he starts, like, you pretty much see it's like as soon as he starts
The
going,
spinning.
you
Yeah.
watch my throttle down the green bar down here. You can just see, you know, I'll pretty much start lifting off and braking once he starts losing it. Now I'm out of it, kind of waiting to see what happens, and not really being aggressive, like charging through the crash. 'Cause in real life, you would never do that, right? If there's a bunch of cars flying everywhere, you're not gonna.
And they
There's a
don't
good
fly
chance
through
you're
the
not
air
gonna.
in the same way either, do they?
No, no. Like if you notice in iRacing, kind of the way the cars bounce around, it's not quite realistic. Let's look at someone else's view.
Yeah.
Sages, you know, like the way how fast they spin and how like bouncy they are. it's like they're made of paper mache almost. They don't act. It doesn't really act like that in real life.
No,
Um,
you could see Sage there. He just stayed absolutely flat, didn't he?
mhm. And the thing that you can do in iRacing that you cannot do in real life, is that sometimes if you're, I don't know if this is really the netcode thing or if this is just the game doesn't operate fast enough to register, but like sometimes a car will spin in front of you, you just drive right through them. Like you won't even register that there was a contact, which is obviously not sensical, but it just is what happens. So, here we are, we're lap 5. Let's go to back to my view. And there's a yellow, we're at the back of the pack. So immediately, we had Darren kind of spotting and helping out. For this race, we also had my race engineer, Daniele from AJ Foyt Racing, kind of working the fuel sheet and calling strategy. So we were talking during this, okay, are we coming in? Are we going to grab fuel, do a full service, or just grab tires? And we ended up just pitting for tires, thinking that we didn't want to fill just to have a lighter car to be a little more performance in the pack, try to gain track position. Uh,
Yeah, I think we still had like 16, 17
yeah,
gallons still
sixteen
in
point
there, which
seven right
was
now.
still a good 30, 40 laps of fuel. We were burning about zero point 0.4 gallons per lap. So not even, more than 2 laps per gallon. Um, so, we thought, and obviously there was quite a lot of takers in front of us that did that. So,
Hmm.
if we were the first one of this group to pit under yellow, we would have cycled back out right behind them. We would have had fresh tires and the same amount of fuel, and we would have been able to burn past them. Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, but almost got Connor on the pit stop. That would have been an actual on track pass if we had a pass Connor there. Nice little view going down pit lane, but he
Yeah, it's pretty
just
cool
pipped
seeing
us.
everybody. That was pretty realistic with everybody, apart from you
Yeah.
and Connor driving through each other all the way
Yeah.
down pit lane.
Well, and this is something like you can kind of see it here, like when we come into the box. Um, because iRacing has to be able to host like 60 plus car races, they really space the cars real tight, so you can't actually get in without driving through someone else. I mean, okay, maybe not 3 boxes like I did there, but so if they're parked in their box or if they're in the slow lane, you can just blitz right through them.
Yeah,
Um,
go
which
straight through them, but not the fast
not the fast lane, as we learned in Michigan when I punted Nazaroff.
lane.
um, So yeah, that was that. I mean, we didn't come up high or low on the cycle here. We just kind of came back out where we came in.
But now we kind of committed ourselves to pretty much 3 stops, include with regards to not topping up with fuel.
Mhm.
Um, we were gonna be 10 laps short on our next stint, but we were happy with that because those last 10 laps on a full stint. Right, Dalton, it was just absolutely crazy handling.
Yeah.
Everybody was crazy. Some guys were pushing real bad, which is the fronts aren't turning, and some guys were going loose where they're losing the back end and nearly spinning out. There was actually quite a lot of debate between all the drivers, like what happened to the
Hmm.
tires. But I think it was how you drove those early laps. We talked about it,
Yeah.
didn't we?
That was kind of my thought. So we have like a little driver group chat, and there was like you said there were some guys saying, "Oh, the car went super loose during the race," and I piped up. I was like, "What car were you guys driving?" And I think Graham was like, "Yeah, man, my car was pushing like crazy." So I think because there was kind of that variance in where the tires went, that shows that it's how you use them, right? If you're getting low and really scrubbing the fronts, you're probably going to burn them off. Whereas if you're rotating early in 3-4 and get on power early and loading the rears a lot harder, then the rears are probably going to go off. And the thing is, too, we never actually, like with the fuel decision here, we didn't really ever expect to run a full stint on tires. We thought
No.
that this race, I think, justifiably given testing, was going to be more limited by tires, and that we'd never be actually filling to full anyway. Because
Yeah,
if let's say on fuel we could do, I think it was 43 laps, right?
hmm,
Or 45 laps.
pretty much.
You know,
Yeah,
we we thought that the tire life would go off to a point after about 35-ish laps, that there was no, your pace would drop off so much that it'd be faster just to pit.
Hmm.
for new tires. So we weren't too concerned about going to that 3-stop strategy early. Um, but what ended up happening, so right now you've got, you know, if we look at me and Sage and Pagano as kind of a case study here, because we got 2 guys in the same strategy effectively, Sage and Dalton, and then Pagano, who didn't pit during that yellow, but he's also up front.
Up front, yeah. What position is he in now? Because Sage is only 2 in front of you right now.
Yeah. Simon's about 6th right now.
Yeah. So if we were in P6, we'd probably made that same decision to
Yeah, we
follow
would have
the
stayed
leader.
out. And then he's got, you can see where he is in the order. He's, you know, he's got clean air in front of him. There's probably cars close to him, yeah, because the replay files get kind of funky. But
Okay.
he doesn't have a pack of 30, 25 cars in front of him to take the air away. He's only got a few cars to worry about, so he's able to save his tires for longer than we ever would be able to, being that much closer to the front. Um, and he doesn't really have to pass people and drive too aggressively for track position. Whereas we know we're not, we're 27th or something or so right now, 24th. We're trying to go drive forward. We're driving hard. We're not saving fuel. At least
Yeah,
that wasn't what we
that was the
decided to.
point. Taking tires so you could hopefully drive through some of the guys that were on used tires.
Yeah. And I think, Sage did a better job at this strategy than I did. I think, he's got a lot of experience on iRacing, but I think he just drove a better race.
Got
But
caught up in a few less incidents, I
yeah,
think,
I
as
think
well.
he, off
Aggressive.
off that, yeah, he's super aggressive, but off that first crash, right? He didn't.
Oh, we did. Oh, there you go. That
Yeah,
was
we're
Oliver
fighting with
taking out
Connor. So there's
Rossi.
also, you can see like right here is about when our paths diverged, right? Because he had the track position of being a few spots ahead. He wasn't battling with these guys, and he's with that effectively the tail of that lead pack. And pretty much from this point on, the gap to me and Sage basically just keeps growing.
Hmm.
Um, and we've got a few spots, but he's basically with that lead pack. You see going through turn one, and we're kind of fighting with these guys,
Yeah.
and we just drop back.
Incident after incident, and if you're not used to the way that the iRacing kind of works, the crashes and the net codes and everything like that, you drive this more cautiously, like you would do in the real world.
Yeah.
I feel, and I think you do as well, Don, don't you? Which is something you would try and get used to. But you can see you're battling here with Connor and Ferrucci, and just you've lost a bit of a draft. He's probably taken up a few. So he was our benchmark on that same strategy. He only finished, I think, 9 seconds ahead of you, didn't he, at the end of
Yep.
the race, Dalton?
Yeah.
Um,
But he
you know,
was ninth, I think, or 10th or
yeah,
11th or
like
so.
10 spots in 10
Yeah.
seconds. That's kind of pretty much how it ended up, didn't it?
Yep. Yeah, and I think, like I said, it just came down to track position. If we had qualified a little bit better, that would have made our job a little bit easier and could have been a bit more aggressive on this strategy. But if we want to talk about Simon, so what? And oh, sorry, and just one more thing with Sage. He when he pitted, he did take fuel during that start, or at
That's right.
least based on the length of his run after the yellow. Because he was able to pit 5 or 6 laps later than we were with not taking fuel, and based on even if you assume a reasonable fuel save number, um, there's no way he could have made up that much time, and he was driving pretty hard, so he has to have taken fuel.
Hmm.
Is kind of my take on that, and I think that let him kind of leapfrog the order a bit, and also gave him fresher tires for his last run.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that was what we were talking about with Daniele. Remember, it was like, okay, I think we equalized the next 3 stints, next 2 stops effectively, but he went long, short to have 2 really fresh sets of tires at the end of the race.
yeah,
You know, I think I remember
different.
even talking about it with you when you were driving.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my
Decide.
fuel sheet here. So he pitted on 56, and we pitted for fuel. on 47. So he went 9 laps longer than us on this first stint because he took fuel during the yellow, whereas we didn't. But that meant that his final 2 stops, were effectively 5 laps shorter on average than our last 2 runs. Oh, close Twitch. Whoops, it's still
Could
oh,
have
it's,
could
it's
could
still
have
live.
gone harder as well, right? That's your six,
Yeah.
7 gallons that we were talking about that we didn't put in, and he must have topped up. That equates to your 9 laps right there, pretty easy.
Yeah. Oh, we got our first question from mom. That was who I was sending the link to. Do you get nervous, mom? I mean, it's there's a lot of focus required for the online stuff because there's no like physical sensations of how the car feels. You don't get the acceleration, so I think the focus is the same, um, or maybe even more because you're relying only on vision. But no, I don't get you don't get scared or nervous or anything. How physical is iRacing? It kind of depends. The force feedback system I have here isn't super powerful, but the one at like the iAdvanced simulator that Darren owns and runs is pretty beefy and can simulate honestly more for like it can make it harder than what the IndyCar is, but you don't get the heat and the acceleration. So
Still very
it's
still very mental though, isn't it,
yeah,
Dalton?
it's really
That's what, yeah.
I think this is it almost requires more focus because the yeah the I don't know you have less sensations to kind of use to tell you what the
And you
car is
haven't done
doing.
this since you were a kid either, right? This
No,
is,
yeah.
we've done don't get me wrong, we've done a lot of practicing, and uh, we normally would work just on technique stuff, wouldn't we? We'd work on
Mhm.
like a braking technique or a throttle technique, a power on point technique, something that we've thought about and worked on in the real car and brought to the simulator, whereas actual racing is we haven't really ever done apart from the odd fun race, right? Whereas this is, we're taking this pretty seriously.
Yeah. Oh, hi Deb. Hi Al. Thanks for tuning in. Orangeville, Ontario. How are you guys doing? Hope you've been catching these online races. This has been lots of fun for us, and this is kind of this show that Darren and I is sort of a new concept. We're gonna try to keep this going for the year actually when we go back real racing, kind of
Mm-hmm.
talk through how the actual races go.
Yeah,
But
maybe
we're
some more cameras and things like
yeah.
that. So any suggestions that anybody has, please don't hesitate to chirp in.
Yeah.
Do I
And
need a
to
shave? Does Don need to comb his hair or something like
I didn't shave this morning, but I'm doing okay. Um, Glad you guys have been having a good time watching the race. So something we are doing, we're trying to come up with a better name than the Dalton and Darren show, something a little more creative. So we're actually running a contest. If you come up with if you comment here or on my Twitter or on my Facebook or Instagram an idea for a name for the show, like I don't know, Dalton and Darren Speed Hour or something like that, right? We're gonna choose our 4 favorites and put them on a Twitter poll and vote for the winner to name the show. And whoever gets picked gets a signed visor from Darren and I. So
that?
incentive to try to be creative with a cool name. I think let me read some of the suggestions that we have on Twitter so far. One of them is kind of funny. We have Deuces Wild. What do you think of that, Darren?
Oh,
Um,
Deuces Wild, yeah, double D's. Yeah, your mum's saying double D's. That kind of goes with the Deuces Wild,
yeah, yeah. Someone said D&D Talk Tech.
yeah.
Um,
Nice.
Ma vie en teal. That's kind of funny, like ma vie en rose, right? French thing. Some television.
Television. There you
That's
go.
funny.
Nice.
That's from Christian. It's a guy from back home. Alrighty, so we're working lap 28, following along with Zach, kind of just going through the order. Kyle's up here. He's in 10th right now, but he finished a couple laps down. He must have had damage. So during this stint, Bourdais actually thought that we had damage.
Really?
Um, which I don't know. I don't remember hitting anything, but maybe I don't know.
When you were going through all those crashes,
You
something
never
may have
know.
happened. We did keep looking through the car at all the different views, and it didn't look to be bad
Yeah. Looking at our
until.
average pace, because I put all our lap times in a little spreadsheet to kind of just look at some data. Looking at our average pace, I think we were okay in this stint. Um, the thing that we lost compared to Sage, like just looking at if when I so what I did was I basically took all the lap times, put them in my little Excel workbook, and then if you plot lap time against lap since pit, so not like lap time as the race is going on, but like from if when you leave the pits, that's lap zero, and then when it resets when you pit again. Um, the spread of like the consistency, like the width of the spread of the lap times. Sage was definitely a lot more consistent. I think you'd say, accounting for the tire degradation, that you're going to lose time, as the run goes on. His variation's only a couple tenths, whereas we definitely had a few laps where, again, you're battling with guys and all that, but where I lost like half a second from washing out and everything. So
Hmm.
consistency over a 113 lap race is really important.
Yeah, I mean, to say that you're battling with, Chilton, Bourdais, Canan here, on the screen, uh, you know, these are veteran guys, not to iRacing, even though you are on the simulator, just not quite in the racing situation.
Yeah.
This is still valuable experience to run with these guys, and you can make some enemies. There's some guys,
Oh yeah.
out, not naming any names, Oliver Askew, making enemies. Being pretty quick, but taking out the leaders and
Yeah.
things like that. We don't really want to be doing that. So there are
No.
some things that we want to be doing and also not want to be doing.
I think my approach with this whole series has really been to like not make a name for myself. Like we obviously want to perform. That's not what I mean. I mean I don't want to be the one that's getting called out and called a wanker by Will or getting yelled at for doing something silly. Like you, there's not much benefit. I mean, there's lots of benefit, but there's not like you're not going to gain a ton in this, but you could lose respect pretty easy. I think that's kind of the thing is that like if you treat it like it's the real thing and don't do anything silly, then guys are probably going to respect you more. But if you start doing silly stuff, I mean, I think you're going to get yelled at. And the fact that we can all talk to each other during the race makes it a lot more entertaining. We haven't really had the audio on, but there's been some funny moments. So we're working lap 35. Our next pit's coming up on lap
Why don't you zoom forward a
47.
bit? We're already 30 minutes in here.
Right.
Don't want to
Oh,
go too long and bore
oh yeah.
people too much.
Let's talk about what's next. Let's go to the final pit stop.
Yep.
So again, if we want to kind of compare like the winning strategy to what we're doing, so Pagano, it's like he pits around lap 85. Let's find Simon. So he's second now. So he's coming. He's gonna be coming for his last stop. Um, race sure 80. Right about here, 84. Now, sometimes it doesn't let you watch other people pit for some reason. So he's just come out of the pits here on lap 87. So he's got 26 laps to go on his final run. He's probably, he's got light fuel, fresh tires. He's going to be running pretty hard. He just passed, Renus maybe, who's probably a lap down. I don't know where Renus
Yeah, there's a
finished.
lot of guys that have been staying out that were trying to do two stoppers, but they were terrible on tires, and just kind of went backwards. I think Kyle struggled a little bit. I think he did. He tried. I think that's where he got mistaked and kind of got pushed to the back.
But I think it's probably interesting. Let's see if we can find that last lap incident or was it last lap when Askew and all them got together?
Yep. Yep.
Pretty close to the end. Where's
So
Will?
Oliver was trying to unlap himself. Again, he was running. You were battling with him for most of the race,
Yeah.
but he'd fallen back a lap, whereas you'd stayed on the lead lap, and
I can't find them.
he ended up he was back, but he was right there with the leaders, and ended up trying to unlap himself and crashed into the two leaders, which wasn't the best. I don't think they fully wrecked.
So for some reason I can't find them on my replay file. There's some stuff gets kind of funky with these files, and it doesn't always let you see what all the other cars are doing. But basically, you had Will and McLaughlin battling for position towards the end, and Oliver tried to throw it on the inside and
Hmm.
got up into Will, and Will spun and took him and McLaughlin out, and there was some yelling, and everyone was kind of mad. Do you prefer oval or road track? Kind of torn. I grew up racing road courses more so than ovals, but I've had lots of success. I've had some good runs at Indy in the lights car. Looking forward to the 500. It's going to be a dream come true. Getting to race that in August, August 23rd. I think on the last episode I said July 23rd. I meant August. Don't show up to Indy July 23rd. We
Oh,
won't be
different
there
occasion.
racing. Um, so I really like this kind of stuff that we're talking about here, like how the strategy plays out on the ovals. It's more of a chess match, whereas the road courses, it's a little less analytical, a little more of like I think you've called it like a street fight, right? Or a
Yeah.
knife fight, or a boxing match or something.
Yeah, 200
Which,
mile a game, 200 mile an hour game of chess, or
yeah,
a street fight or a boxing match for
yeah.
sure.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I like both. I mean, I probably prefer the road courses, but I also love Indy. And one of my favorite tracks, actually, and I'm sad not to race there this year, is Iowa. The short ovals are a ton of fun, and I would, if we could do short ovals and super speedways, that would do it for me for ovals. I think those are like a track like Iowa or Phoenix. You have to drive it. You're
Yeah,
maybe braking, downshifting, like you're always turning. It's a lot of
they're,
action.
they're nearly like I used to class them as like a fast turn on a road course. You know what I mean? It's like a high speed turn, like the second to last turn at Coda that we're coming up is like 120 mile an hour minimum
Mm,
speed. That's something like turn one at Iowa, for
yeah,
example, isn't it? So.
yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with that, but. I think that's basically it. Oh, everyone's crashing on the cool down lap, which they asked us not to do. They actually said, "Okay, guys, can you go around parking your pit boxes so it looks professional coming when we cross the checkered flag?" I do know
uh,
Scott actually just drove right into Will after the checkered. Yeah, I don't think he was too happy. They were just frustrated or something.
Racing drivers never do
Yeah,
as they're told.
no. So that's kind of it. I think the takeaway from a race strategy standpoint, the takeaway here is that if you're gonna, do a short fills and more fuel to tires on a higher stop strategy, then track position is super important. You got to be fast. You got to be moving through the field. Um, and then if you're out front and you can stretch your field a bit more, then without a late yellow, because I think if Simon was caught, with old tires on a late yellow fuel saving, he'd probably be euchred if he had guys with fresh tires behind him. But if there's no late yellows, then that strategy can work out as it did here and as it did at Michigan for Simon. So two
And
wins for him.
I think that's one of the big takeaways for me from this is, we're talking to the organizers all the time with regards to yellows. Are they going to throw any yellows if there's a
Yeah,
small wreck? Because what happens is if it's only a small wreck on iRacing, that then the cars get like deleted from the screen and put in the pit boxes straight away. That doesn't happen in real life.
no,
A lot of these races would have had several more yellows, and the strategy would have been so much more clearer for all of us, right?
yeah.
Whereas we're guessing nearly, are they going to throw a yellow if there's a wreck in the last 10 laps? Are they going to do this? Are they going? It's not as clear cut as real life.
No. Couple questions. MF 1422. Uh, thanks for the question. What's the best piece of racing advice that Darren has given me? I think it's not really a piece of advice, but I think the kind of overall driving technique that he's sort of in ingrained in me through practice on the simulator and in real life. I think that having that framework to always be striving for the same goal of having the kind of secure rear and the stuff that we
Mhm.
do and where we focus on the minimum corner speeds and all that. I think that's been really helpful. Just to have that consistent framework. How much have you been able to practice on virtual coda? Well, we were on track this afternoon, um, doing some testing, qualifying runs, did a couple long runs to get some fuel numbers, and I actually tootled around at 45 miles an hour while everyone else was doing qualifying runs to get a yellow flag fuel number, which I'm sure was driving a few people nuts.
Yeah,
You
I don't
can't.
think there's going to be many yellow flags at
Well, there's
Coda.
there's just gonna be the early in the run. They're gonna have a
Competition
competition
yellow.
yellow for the ad break, I'm sure. But I think it'll be before the first pit window. So a little bit of time. We'll be streaming some more practice for the rest of the week, so be sure to check in for that. How does virtual Coda compare to real Coda? I think virtual Coda is harder to drive than real Coda. It's already a tricky track,
Yeah,
and
with the elevation changes and
mhm,
how far everything. It's such a big track, isn't it?
yeah, I mean it's over 3 miles long, isn't it? It's almost 4 miles.
Three
It's
and a
or
half, nearly.
three and a
Yeah.
half something. It's pretty, maybe two and a whatever it is. It's a long track, and on on iRacing, they're really strict about track limits, like because the game knows, right? It's like if you're over by a couple wheels, your lap is invalidated for qualifying. It doesn't really matter in the race, but for qualifying, so there's so many spots on that track that you can, get on the red paint, like coming up
Uphill.
through nine and the S's, and it's like you have to be so careful. So it's more frustrating in iRacing than it is in real life.
Yeah, there's not that many electron. The official for IndyCar, they'll give you one or two corners that you're not allowed. That they're going to be looking at. But with this being electronic, they can get you on absolutely every corner, can't
Yeah,
they? So
yeah. I just realized I'm always looking this way because my Twitch screen is on that monitor, but my iRacing screen's here. I should swap those around so I'm not looking
I know
away.
we'll get better, Dalton. That's
Yeah.
the whole plan of this, right?
Yep.
Show number two.
But yeah, so keep throwing in your ideas for names, and keep asking questions. Yep. 1422, appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Mom, for all the questions. Mom and
Mom's
Dad. So
always got to be there, and
yeah,
she.
Murphy Copper. That's my parents' dogs' names. They're really cute Chesapeake Bay Retrievers, and Poppy hasn't barked in a minute, so I better go check what she's up to. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you all next week for debriefing for Coda.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.